Hello. If you are watching this, it means that I do, in fact, have COVID. So please excuse how nasally I am. Woke up this morning feeling meh. Went home yesterday after school feeling absolutely terrible. Took one COVID test, which was inconclusive. My wife is going to get another one. And I thought while she's doing that, I would go ahead and get somewhat of this filmed for you guys. That way you guys can still have a class tomorrow. Whoever is subbing for me, thank you. I'm guessing you're like over there to the left somewhere. Thank you. I appreciate it. And everyone else, today's class is probably going to be a little bit shorter, but I want to go ahead and get you started on what we're going to talk about when we come back next Tuesday. Um, I am in my office. Yes, I have some gamer lights behind me. I will answer and field all questions about those when I get back. And this is my wife's desk behind me. It is a mess. We're not going to talk about it. Today, I wanted to be the start of us talking about audio and video production. Um, if you were in my class last year, if you were in the club when we did this, this is probably not new to you. You probably know a lot of this. So I ask that you do, pay attention, take notes, things like that. Everyone would probably benefit from maybe opening up a Google Doc and taking notes as we go along. Anything that is highlighted in this presentation is going to be something that is a key term and we are for sure going to talk about at another time. So going on here, we talked about this a little bit during the first day, but the first part of my goal here is I want us to learn about audio gear such as microphones and cameras. After that, I'm going to teach you guys about mixers. And then after that, we can go on and start looking at like video gear and then how to put all of it together. So we're going to start today with microphones. And our first project I want us to work on, I talked about this a little bit that first day too. I would like us to work on uploading a podcast to a school authorized account. So if you have a podcast idea, I would encourage you guys start thinking about those things right now. If you were in the class where someone joked about last year, they did like a 5-minute podcast on their favorite and least favorite types of cheese. It was comedical. I will hopefully get that out into the world at some point for everyone to see. But in the meantime, just be thinking about a podcast topic. It could be movies, video games. And I want you to be thinking about the structure of it because part of the audio video production is learning how to structure things and how to plan your shots and plan what you're going to record. So just be thinking about who you might want in your group. Up to 4 people, might be 2 to 3, depending on how much gear we have available. Be thinking about a podcast. I'm going to skip that. We will talk about this when I come back. And we're going to have a discussion in class. Obviously, I'm not there if you're watching this, but the question was going to be which is more important, audio or video? And I want you to think about when you're watching something. Maybe you're watching this right now. I don't know where you're watching this at. Hopefully, it's on the view board. Hopefully, it's decent quality. Which is more important, that you can see me or that you can hear me? Think about going to the movies at the movie theater. Which is more important, the screen or the audio? Think about your favorite YouTuber, your favorite Instagrammer, TikToker, an influencer that you like and that you follow. Be thinking about for their content, which is more important, audio or video. And I'd like to discuss that next week whenever I come back. Let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to talk about microphones. What is a microphone? It is a device used to capture sound waves from the air and it turns them into electrical signals. That's the fancy, like, nerd way to say what a microphone is. You guys know what a microphone is. It amplifies your voice, is the way that we commonly think about using it. We plug a microphone into a mixer at a football game and Ron Head reads out the football players' names as they run onto the field. That's a microphone. But they also have other uses too. They always have to be plugged into some sort of device in order to capture the sound. You can plug a microphone into the bottom of your cell phone. Your cell phone has a microphone built into it, and it is plugged into a chipset on the motherboard of your phone that acts as that device. Normally, we plug a microphone into a mixer or soundboard, which note is underlined. Please make notes of those so we can discuss those. Or an I/O interface, which stands for in and out interface. And I'll show off one of those next week as well. In order to get the best sound on your recordings, though, you need to put the best sound in. And I also want you guys to think on this. When does the quality of sound not really matter? Because I say that, we want the putting in the best quality recording to get the best quality sound, but there are times that doesn't apply. And I'm going to ask you guys that on Tuesday. I want you to be able to tell me, when does that not really matter? There are 3 main types of pickup patterns that we're going to be discussing with our microphones. There's cardioid. This is unidirectional, one directional, meaning it picks up sound in one direction, usually in front of the capsule. On this mic here, this is the front of the capsule, the end I'm talking into. If I talk into the back, hello, 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 it might pick me up a little bit. It might pick me up a little bit, but it's not going to pick me up very much. Omnidirectional records in all directions. It records sound in 360 degrees. These are usually used in studios or controlled spaces. If I was to have an omnidirectional mic in your room you guys are in right now, it's probably going to pick up the air conditioning unit behind me. It's going to pick up you guys shuffling your feet, tapping pencils, clicking on a keyboard, whoever's subbing for me, sitting there uncomfortably while they listen to me talk. It's going to pick up all of that, and we don't want that. So, no, we don't want that all the time, which is where you might choose cardioid or omnidirectional. There's a third option, which kind of is the marriage of the two, and that's bidirectional. Pickups equal amounts on either side. These are usually mics that are made special to be bidirectional. They're not super common. They're useful in very specific use cases. Let's say I am a vlogger and I'm interviewing people on the street, and I want to be able to interview the person I'm pointing the camera at, but I want the camera to pick up my voice. I might have a bidirectional microphone on the top of that camera. I might be doing a podcast and I have something like a Blue Yeti. Blue Yeti has a bidirectional setting. If I'm doing just two people, I can put that mic in between us and it's just going to capture me and the other person, which is very nice. This is a cardioid pickup pattern. This is the fancy, like I said, the fancy nerd way to show how it would be drawn, how it would be demonstrated. And 0 decibels up there at the top means that is unity, that is equal. That means there's no impedance, meaning that all of the sound is going in. And then the closer you get to the back of the microphone, you start to lose 5 decibels, then 10, 15, 20. So that's what that pickup pattern means. This is omnidirectional. And if you see, you're losing 0 decibels all the way around. So, and then bidirectional, pretty self-explanatory again. Picks up really strong in the front, really strong going the opposite way, not so much on the sides. And I don't have a good bidirectional mic to demonstrate to you guys, but I will try to demonstrate the other ones to you next week. I do want you guys to be honest here. Sub, I'm so sorry if you're in the room, but this is a really serious question. I need the students to answer and tell me which one of these looks more like a butt. I'll give you guys a moment to discuss. Hopefully, at least like one person laughed. If no one laughed at this joke, I'm really sorry. If you guys just sat there in awkward silence. I'm not sorry. That'd actually be really funny if you guys sat there in awkward silence. So there are 3 main types of microphones we're going to be talking about in this class. We're really going to use 2 of them more than any other, but I want to discuss like the big 3. The first one, maybe the most common one we're going to use, is called a dynamic microphone. Dynamic microphones use the voltage generated by a moving coil, aka like the sound that we make as the sound waves hit that coil and it moves. It uses that energy to create sound. They're great because they have low amounts of bleed, which is sound coming in from other sides. I'll try to give out bleed here in a little bit, but let's say I was doing a podcast with someone here to my left and they were talking. I don't want my mic to pick up their voice. This makes it great for people who are on stage. Think of like a rock star, someone who's on a very loud stage with a microphone. You don't want that feedback coming from the other things. So you want to get rid of that bleed. It's good for podcasts. It's also really good for radio hosts. They're very durable. They're very versatile. If I was to drop this on the ground, unlike one of the other mics we're going to talk about, this one's probably not going to be affected too much on the sound. Something like a Shure 58, like one of the most common microphones. I'll show a picture of those here in a minute. We have 8 of those and we just toss them in a tote and we're not worried about them getting broken or losing quality of sound because they just have this durability to them. They're less likely to overload or distort. We're going to talk about overloading and distortion when we talk about mixers, but essentially, I might be able to do it here real quick. So this is normally, I've got my mixer here in front of me. I'm going to turn myself up. I'm going to hear what it sounds like when I overload. So this is overloading. You hear how gross it sounds? It sounds really, really nasty. It's picking up everything. This is a little bit of overloading and a little bit of distortion. Turn that back down roughly where I had it. There we go. And get off of there. They're really good for drums because drums are very percussive. They move a lot of air, guitar amps, horns, and vocals. Things that move air when they're played, these are good for that. And they have a lower sensitivity. Here's an ad by Shure that I always really liked. Shure basically mocking the other mics because the microphone that they created is the emoji for many, many phones and services. Here's another one they have. So if you've ever seen that emoji before, that is a Shure microphone. It's a Beta 58. Um, there it is, the SM58 there. The mic on the right is an upgraded version of the microphone I'm using now. If you can't tell, I really like Shure microphones. They're my go-to brand. The other main type of microphone we're going to talk about is condenser microphones. These use a movable metal diaphragm affixed to a metal plate. I don't expect you guys to be able to quote that back to me. I'm just going to say it because, like I said, I'm a nerd for audio. This means that when sound hits the space between the plates, the distance between the plates changes, and that voltage is recorded. Now, condenser mics, unlike dynamic microphones, need this thing called phantom power. I should have underlined that. That is a really important thing. Dynamic microphones can be plugged into basically any mixer. They're going to work. Something like your phone, they're going to work. Condenser microphones need phantom power, usually 48 volts, which is supplied by the mixer. Most phones can't supply that, so most phone microphones are dynamic microphones. Of the three main types, condensers usually offer what is considered the best high frequency audio, high fidelity, whatever you want to call it. But it also makes them very sensitive to small changes and low volumes. I'll bring one in next week for you guys. And unlike this dynamic microphone, which I talked about is good at picking up my voice right here close to it, condenser microphones tend to pick up a lot of room noise. Because of this, if you're in a controlled space, they're really good for things like singers, acoustic guitars, just a certain percussion, maybe like bongos or timpani, something that has a really wide range and you need lots of nuance. It makes them great for that, but you really need to be in a controlled space. Excuse me. They do often come with multiple pickup patterns, and if you're going to buy a USB microphone, it's probably a condenser, but we've seen a change in that in the last 2 to 3 years. We're seeing a lot of dynamic USB mics. Here's a couple examples of some condenser microphones. On the left, we have a Rode. It's another really good brand. In the middle, I mentioned that mic a couple times. The Blue Yeti. It's a really good beginner mic. Anyone out there looking to buy a mic? And that's the one that has those multiple pickup patterns. That model you're seeing there is a USB variant. And then on the right side over there, we have like a newer one. I believe that's a Beacon mic. And you can kind of see the switches there. It has different pickup patterns and different options available to it. And it can afford to do that because it needs power from something. So it can afford to be a smarter microphone. The last mic I kind of want to talk about, we're not really going to look at these, are ribbon microphones. They are technically a form of a dynamic microphone, but we put them in their own category. They use magnets to vibrate a ribbon. They're very, very delicate. Most of them are bidirectional, and this is used to record room audio most of the time. So if you've ever been at like a concert hall, like a really nice concert hall, I'm not talking like, Benton Civic Center, like a nice concert hall where an orchestra would be performing, they will have mics hanging in front of the stage. Those are usually ribbon mics, and they're usually bidirectional, so it simulates sort of the space between your own ears as it's capturing audio on both sides. It records in stereo. If you can get a good ribbon mic, they are the best, most natural sound that you can get out of the three types of microphones. And that's its frequency range is the most similar to the human voice, what we're used to hearing. They're used in very, very controlled environments and high-end studios. You're not going to see them very often. Here's a couple of pictures of a few ribbon microphones. I don't have a ribbon microphone. I'm sorry. Like a good ribbon microphone, that one there on the right, that SE you're looking at, probably, I believe those start around $3,000. So I'm not buying that. I have no need for it. Here's where I would ask questions. Please note down in your Google Docs any questions you might have. I just went through a ton of information, so much information. Please take down. It's okay if you feel overwhelmed. It's okay if you feel like a deer in the headlights. We will go over it. We will slow it down. We might even redo parts of this PowerPoint on Tuesday and just speed through it. Note down any questions you have. I want to answer and I want to address those questions. I'd like to play a game in my best saw voice. I'm not going to do it. Do I have a good saw voice up here? I don't think I do. Hold on.
I'd like to play a game.
There you go. That's the closest you're going to get. What mic should we buy? I should have got like some like game show music hooked up in here. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm really dropping the ball on that. Here we go. We're just going to go on. What mic should we choose? A singer in a rock band is looking to purchase a microphone. What should they purchase? Think about what a singer in a rock band is looking to purchase. What kind of situation are they in? Is where they're at going to be loud, quiet? Is it going to be controlled, non-controlled? What are they looking to accomplish? I'll give you guys like 10 seconds. Someone raise their hand, please, if no one's raising their hand yet. Dora the Explorer. Just yell an answer at me if you haven't yet. The answer is a dynamic microphone with a cardioid, a unidirectional pickup pattern. Got a nice picture of Bret Michaels over there on the side. I never noticed, but Bret Michaels is wearing a muscle shirt of himself on the cover, which I've never noticed before. And I think that's really funny. I'm going to start walking around with a shirt with my face on it when I get back. Just be prepared for that. No, a stage is very loud, very uncontrolled. So you want something with a very close, non-sensitive pickup pattern so it doesn't pick up him strumming his guitar, the people on the stage, the audience cheering, the monitors on the stage. You want it to be very controlled. So Bret Michaels wants a dynamic microphone. A friend is looking to record their guitar as they do cringy acoustic covers of popular rap songs from the 2000s. I'll give you a second, then I want you to just Dora the Explorer, swiper no swiping, yell the answer at me. That is definitely not correct. The answer is a condenser microphone, at least for the guitar, but just in general. If you're going to buy just one mic for this kind of situation, it's probably best to buy a condenser. Remember, dynamic microphones are not great when there's tons of air being moved. They tend to pop. A condenser at like a decent range in a room would probably be the best choice, especially for something like recording an acoustic guitar. Joe Rogan's podcast gets shut down, and he finds himself needing to start fresh, knowing nothing about microphones, which I believe. He turns to you to ask, what kind of microphone should I buy? Be thinking about what kind of setting is Joe Rogan in? Is he in a studio? What kind of content does he make? Is it talking? Is it singing? Is it instrumental? Some of you may not know what Joe Rogan's podcast is. The answer, Joe Rogan should buy a dynamic microphone. He's actually using the fancy Shure mic, the 37 that I was talking about earlier, the upgraded version of the one I'm using. Because he wants to be right on the mic. He wants that proximity effect, and he wants to not capture the other person talking across from him. A person is looking to purchase a microphone to equip to a nice video camera they purchased so that they can record content with better audio. Take a moment. This one's kind of a trick question. I'm going to give you guys a second. We actually didn't talk about this microphone. I'm just seeing if someone yelled out shotgun microphone, whoever's subbing for me, they are correct. A shotgun dynamic mic. Shotgun mics are really good because, as the name implies, they capture sound in a shotgun-like pattern straight in front of them. It's way more narrow than that of like the standard cardioid pickup pattern. Really good for like, let's say you're at a basketball game, you got one camera, no handheld microphones, you want to record a player's winning speech. There's going to be lots of noise going on around you, and you want to point the camera right at the player. Shotgun mic is excellent for recording that kind of stuff. Most of those do require their own separate kind of power, though, just by the nature of what they are. Me has decided, that was terrible English. I hope an English teacher is not something for me. Mr. McDaniel decides he wants to record ASMR of himself using Doritos to eat Jell-O in the back of his closet. What kind of mic should I buy? When you're done imagining me using Doritos to eat jelly, please answer. And the answer is a condenser microphone. I feel like I need to say this. That's not me. I don't look that good. A condenser microphone. In this case, he is using a Blue Yeti. Sorry, I hope I did not misgender them. They are using a Blue Yeti. I'm actually not sure on that. And a Blue Yeti is good because it has that omnidirectional and that bidirectional pickup pattern. And it's really good because if you're making, I hate ASMR, but if you're making lots of clickety clacks around it and you want to simulate kind of ears, you want to capture lots of audio. Therefore, the Blue Yeti is a great choice in this situation. A cringe lord by the name of yours truly, Timothy McDaniel, wants to buy a microphone so that he can stream bad compilations of he and his friends playing Tarkov on Twitch. What mic should I have bought? I'm going to give you guys a second. One more moment. I should have bought a dynamic microphone. The microphone I am using now. I did not buy. My very first high-end mic I bought was not a dynamic microphone. I'm going to show you guys a very cringy picture. I'm very open about how awful I am. I bought a condenser microphone, and it was awful because you could hear my PC. You could hear me typing on my keyboard. You could hear a controller. You could hear my mom making dinner down the hall. Should have bought a dynamic mic. I didn't. That is a Nintendo 64 controller for those of you not born before the year 2000, before me in the class. That's an N64 controller painted on my wall. Alrighty. I do want to talk just a little bit about the proximity effect. It's present in all mic types except those with omnidirectional pickup patterns. It's way more noticeable on dynamic mics. It's caused by getting too close to a microphone. Sometimes we want to be too close, sometimes we don't. It results in an increase of the low ends or the bass. So if I was to pull this back a little bit, you'll notice it's still picking me up, especially if I talk a little bit louder. I sound significantly less bassy. I probably sound a lot more nasally. We might call that tinny. I have a lot of high ends. The moment I start to bring that in, if I keep talking, I get bassier and bassier. And then when I get this close to it, I am much, much bassier. That is the proximity effect. Some people do that on purpose because they want that like radio sound. Joe Rogan, that photo I showed you earlier, he's right up on that sucker. He wants that radio sound. It does appear, it does like come out in like female voices as well, but it's predominantly used by male announcers. This can cause problems though, such as if we placed a dynamic mic too close to an acoustic guitar hole, it's going to be a super bassy recording. Therefore, that's why I recommended something like that shotgun condenser mic that we showed earlier. What kind of mic should you buy? Let's say you love this class and in the spring you decide over the summer you really want to take some of this stuff seriously and you really want to buy your own microphone. You first need to look at what are you recording? Are you recording your voice? Are you recording an instrument? Are you recording nature, other people? Where's it going to be used? Are you in a controlled studio? Are you in the back of your closet? Are you out on the streets? Are you at a basketball game? Think about where it's going to be used, and then most importantly, consider your budget. You do get what you pay for with these mics, but you get diminishing returns. For those of you who may not know what diminishing returns is, if you were to look at a chart that's going up, 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 I'll do it the other way. So no, it was right this way. Up, 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 up. As you get to the higher ends, it starts to taper off, and it does keep going up, but significantly less aggressively. A $300 mic is, it's going to be much better than a $50 microphone. This here was a $250 microphone. It sounds way better than than like a $50 or $30 or $20 microphone. A $600 microphone may not sound all too differently than this mic, depending on where it's being used. If it's being used with a high-end $300 headset with a nice DAC and a nice preamp, then the 600 one's probably going to be pretty noticeable. But where do most people consume content? They consume it on their phones. They consume it on a TV, usually a TV with the built-in speakers and not a good sound system. They consume it on a Chromebook or a laptop. Most of these things don't have really good high-end speakers. Even things like AirPods. I have a pair of AirPods. They have great sound, but that's not that great of sound. A $600 microphone, the nuances that you're paying for is going to get lost. So if you're looking to buy that new mic, talk to me, talk to someone else in the industry, but I would try to stick for your very first one in that $50 to $100 range. You can get a lot of really good things for that price. Here's another part. I'd love for you guys to note down your questions, and I'd love to discuss questions with you when I get back. I don't want to talk about cables just yet. I feel like I've given you guys a lot. We will talk about cables when I get back. Here's a light homework assignment for you guys. I want you to think about influencers that you enjoy watching. I want you guys to do your best to try to find out what kind of gear that they use. It's not always possible to find the exact gear. With a bit of Googling, looking at videos, check out other websites like Reddit, people who are in that community. Usually you can figure out what people use. You could also just try to look at it, see if you can see a label and at least get an idea. I want you to try to decide more than anything what kind of gear, what kind of microphone they're using. That's like the main thing. So if that's a TikTok person, maybe they're not using a mic at all. Maybe they're using a condenser mic to record their voice. Maybe they're using one of those little itty bitty golden dynamic microphones that I see lots of TikTokers use. If it's someone on YouTube, they're probably using a condenser or dynamic mic. Someone like Moist Critical uses that, like I think it's a Rode AT20, condenser mic. So just try to figure out what kind of mic they're using. And then I want you to be able to describe what kind of content they make. I'm not asking for a paper here, but I do want 2 to 3 bullet points. Tell me what kind of content they make. Mr. Beast, he makes content regarding money with big fanfare and all of this excitement happening, and it's usually involving giving things to people. Someone, I mentioned Moist Critical earlier. I love Charlie. He's very dry. He covers the news. He covers memes, things that he finds goofy. Charlie D'Amelio, I think she covers dance. It's been a while since I've seen her in the news. I think she did dancing TikToks. That's the kind of content she make. And then as another bullet point or two, I want you to describe what makes their content stand out to you and why you chose to choose them for this project. Are they funny? Do they use special tricks or techniques? I love Marquise Brownlee. He's a great one. If you can't think of anyone, look up someone like Marquise Brownlee or Harris Heller on YouTube. They do some really great, unique content with lots of widescreen aspect ratios. And are they doing something unique that you're not seeing other people do? Mr. Beast is very unique. Most people don't have the money to give that stuff away. I regularly think of this guy years ago on Twitch who would dance, and he had hooked a bunch of buttons up to his suit, and as he was dancing and playing music, he would hit buttons on a suit and it would activate fire behind him. Or if someone donated to him on Twitch, he would hit a button on his shoulder and it would say like thank you, and he hit these buttons as he was dancing for just hours on end in this awesome light show, and he was DJing while he did it. Really weird. And for like a year, that guy was just like blowing up on Twitch because he was so unique. No one else was doing it. So on that Google Doc, which hopefully you guys opened up to take notes, I want you to start this influencer study. Don't go too deep, but you guys probably have a good bit of class left by the time you're done watching this. Please be nice to your substitute. Please work on something. If you're not, let's say you finish this influencer thing and you're done, work on, a different project you're working on and something in a different class. Please don't sit there and play games on the computer or give your substitute a hard time. Thank you guys again. I know this is not ideal. My wife just called me. I think she's back home with a COVID test. Hopefully I'm there tomorrow and you guys will never see this. But if you are seeing this, I will be back next week, assuming I can clear my test and I'm not running a temp. I love you guys. Hope you have a good day. I can't find the stop recording button. There it is.